Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. This is Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm your host, the Iceman, Jeff Trunapole. And as always, I'm bringing you sports from a West Side point of view right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio, home of Jackpot Joey and the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals. Now, do me a favor, if you found the show, hit that like and subscribe button. Smash that thumbs up. I'm going the wrong way, though. I'm at 1,865. I was at 1,867 yesterday. So help me get to 2,000 because I'm trying to get to 2,000 subscribers by the time the season rolls around. If I get there, I'm going to give away a 6-pack of this delicious Jackpot Joey beer. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors about Sports with Strawberry Ice, and please subscribe. So if you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, go to the YouTube channel, hit the subscription button, hit the bell for notification, and every time I go live, you'll be notified. And as always, I'm coming to you live from the Ice Cave, and the Ice Cave is brought to you by T Properties. T Properties, quality housing for quality people. Check out their website at www.tpropertiesllc.com for all your rental property management needs and your rental needs. Guys, we were getting closer. We are so close. We are exactly a jackpot. 9 days away from kickoff. I cannot freaking wait. I'm so ready for the season to get going. I think it's going to be a huge year. I cannot wait. Now, I know you guys love this guy. He's from Cincy Jungle. I call him the Godfather. He's one of my buddies. He's AC. Let's get to him. It would help if I hit the right button.
That's all right, man. That's all right. How you doing? You got new tunes, new brews. You got all this stuff. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. I was watching.
Not much. You got a lot going on.
Well, you haven't seen the new song yet, had you?
I have not. Yeah, that's pretty solid, man.
Yeah. And then we got the Jackpot Joey beer. So it's
nice. I saw.
Yeah.
So is that a lighter beer? Is that like an IPA?
It's an IPA. It's a blonde ale.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's not a real dark beer. It's more of like a hoppy beer. So we kind of try to make it so everybody would like it. You know, I mean, like Bud Light drinkers like me, I like Bud Light and I like this stuff. So if you
got to get this guy to 2K so I can win that beer. So I mean,
exactly. Give me the 2,000. Like I said, I'm going the wrong way. I lost 2 people, so I don't know what happened.
That's all right.
So I don't know about you, Anthony. I am excited. We are 9 days away from kickoff. What are your thoughts 9 days out? I mean, that's the Bengals have done. What's your thoughts right now?
I'm pretty hyped, man. Quite honestly, I mean, I thought the roster of what they did in free agency and the draft, I thought it was in even better shape than it was last year. And so you're feeling pretty good about that. And then they continue to tweak all the way up through the waiver wire and final cuts and everything. And it's not just one move. It's like 3, 4. I mean, it's like it's a bunch of different moves. And I said it on my show earlier this week that it's not just like, you know, some guys that were undrafted free agents that were highly coveted or seven. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not like those type of players. These are former 2nd-round picks, Max Sharping, right? Mm-hmm. Former 3rd-round pick, Ossie, former 4th-round pick, Jay Tufele. By the way, big Jay Tufele guy, USC. I love that guy. On our show, we did a little prospect profile on him years ago. And I think my co-host, John, was like, why are we talking about this guy? It's not going to be a Bengal. And then all of a sudden, a year later, he's a Bengal.
Yeah, take that, John. See?
Yeah,
there you go.
I'm just kidding. But no. So, yeah, I mean, they just continue to tweak. They continue to try and improve, and you got to respect that.
Yeah, I mean, and the interesting thing is the waiver wire, they're 31st. To be able to get these legit players, and they're legit players. I mean, I know everybody wanted OJ Howard and stuff, and some people are disappointed that didn't happen. But I mean, they're not really looking for, I don't think, another pass catching tight end. Because let's be honest, I said this over and over last year. This offense really is not designed for the ball to go to the tight end. So to have 2 elite pass catching tight ends, it might not work in this offense. And since Hayden Hurst came here, he wants to be the number 1 guy. So, but I think Hayden Hurst is going to have a great year. So I think it's a good pickup for the guy that they did pick up.
Look around the division. I mean, even with the tinkering of the offensive line with La'el Collins and Karras and Kappa, you're going to want – I mean, that's not ideally – when you think tight end, you think, athlete, going to catch the ball, red zone weapon, and that's part of maybe what Ossie's going to bring. But you also want someone that can go in there and chip here and there. You've got Myles Garrett to deal with. You've got TJ Watt to deal with. You've got a lot of players coming off the edge. The Ravens always seem to find pressure from different areas and their funky defensive formations that they throw at people. So, I mean, the teams in this division alone are going to be bringing, a lot of heat, and, you've got the Bills to contend with. You've got, so, I mean, when you look at, and Howard is a decent blocker as well. But I mean, when you look at kind of a little extra need, not only was the tight end position pretty weak, it was kind of one of the weaker links going into the waiver wire claim, but it was also banged up, between Sample and Wilcox and what have you. So they obviously they like Thad Moss enough to keep him on the practice squad and continue to develop him, but just he hasn't shown enough to be a 53-man roster guy at this point. So, I mean, they're taking a flyer on a guy that they think can help them in certain aspects. And remember, Jeff, that when you go back to the postseason last year and you look at the Bengals, everybody talked about Evan McPherson, his great leg, and he did awesome. Obviously, the defense making timely plays and other players making timely plays, but this team really struggled getting the ball in the end zone and the red zone.
Yes,
and so they need to have other big targets. They need to have other ancillary guys as the wide receivers they have, the great ones they have, are going to command attention. Hurst will be a weapon to utilize there. And then you can kind of go jumbo package in there a little bit, double tight end. Maybe everybody thinks Joe Mixon's getting the ball at the end zone, and you play action, roll out, and you hit one of these guys, Ossie, Hurst, that sort of thing. And that's maybe a little bit of the mindset here and there. So, I mean, I'm excited. They just, again, these are guys that are mid-round picks. And recent mid-round picks that you're getting on the waiver wire claim. Granted, they maybe fell out of favor where they were, but Ossie's interesting to me because he's also a Pac-12 guy, UCLA guy, and so I know a little bit about him, but he's just been injured. He hasn't been utilized correctly. Obviously, the Patriots are in a big state of transition with the Tom Brady thing the past couple of years, so you don't truly know what you have from him yet, but why not take a waiver wire claim and a flyer on him?
Yeah, exactly. And just get back to the tight end situation. And I was a little concerned about that, but let's just the three guys they picked up. Those are the three spots. If you had any concern about this roster, they just filled them. So, I mean, are they going to work out? I don't know. I hope so. But getting to Hayden Hurst and what you're saying, not being able to score touchdowns in the playoffs, which is true. That's why Evan had to kick so many field goals. I think Hayden Hurst, he's the first high-powered red zone threat and tight end we've had since Tyler Eifert. I mean, I really do think Hayden Hurst is going to be a huge red zone threat for the Bengals, and I think it's going to get this offense even more powerful than it was last year. And I said this a million times last year. People kept asking me, well, when's this offense going to really take off and get consistent? Well, I kept saying when the offensive line gets consistent. Well, it never really got consistent last year, so that's why our offense was up and down a lot. But this year we had the offensive line, and now we have an added weapon in Hayden Hurst. I really think this is going to be a really good fit for Hayden, and I think he's going to really excel here. I mean, he was a first-round pick for a reason, he says.
So I agree with you. I think Hurst is a nice pickup. You could even argue that, I mean, even with everything that CJ Uzomah brought to the team last year, that Hurst is maybe an upgrade. And, I mean, you've heard Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and others talk him up so far about, what he's been doing, what he's been showing, what they're excited about him bringing to the offense. So you like all of that. But then, the other thing with this, with he and Ossie and some of the others that you hope round out that group, between the offensive line, it's not just red zone conversions and getting into the end zone type of situations either, Jeff. It's when you talk about fixing the offensive line, as the Bengals have done seemingly in free agency and the draft, because Volson's now starting. So when you talk about that and you talk about bringing in capable tight ends, you obviously have the great stable, the big three at wide receiver. What you do is it's not just being able to punch it in the end zone, but it's also being able to extend drives, being able to give your defense a bit more of a rest, making more manageable field goal attempts potentially for Evan McPherson, not having to rely all the time on these 50-plus yarders and whatnot, even though we have faith he's going to do that. So there's a lot of things that you can kind of say there's a method to the madness here. And even opportunities where defense gets a turnover, let's say that the offense gets the ball back, and in years past, even maybe last year, 3 and out or a short drive, and defense has to go right out there. Now you've got players to extend drives, to be able to get drives that were going to be punts. Maybe they move them into field goal range because of these kind of bigger guys that move the chains a little bit. So I like the mindset. I like the mindset. I like that the never satisfied, always tinkering. That's just not what we had seen in the previous coaching regime. I love what Marvin Lewis did in a lot of ways for the Cincinnati Bengals, but it was a lot of, hey, we've got our guys, we're set. It's not a lot of, it wasn't a lot of, hey, let's continue to improve.
Yeah, exactly. I love that about what the new Bengals are doing with just throughout the season, off season. They're always tinkering, always trying to make it better. Now, these are the moves that they did today, and everybody's kind of wondering about Brandon Allen. Well, he got signed today, and free agent Michael J. Thomas and free agent Travion Williams. All of them are back with the Bengals. Now, I have a question. Were you concerned at all with only having one quarterback on the 53?
I mean, initially it's jarring. You go, what? But I think there was, kind of this, handshake, whatever agreement deal that, hey, Brandon, we're gonna release you here, but we're bringing you right back. It's just kind of a nuanced thing. We gotta play the game in terms of the rules of roster creation and all that kind of stuff. And so, they had him, and I think worst comes to worst, they do like what they had in Jake Browning. Maybe he was the guy they called up if for some reason Brandon Allen was grabbed elsewhere, but I think they had this all kind of set in stone. I'd be interested to be a fly on the wall of some of these players where, like, let's say Brandon Allen, when he got cut, if another team comes calling and they're like, hey, are you interested in coming over here? No, I've got the, I'm just interested. I would be interested to kind of see how some of the conversations, but and I think he feels he's in a good place. I think he's tight with Burrow. Obviously he's got the past connections with Zach Taylor and comfortable system and whatnot. So I think it just makes a lot of sense. But I mean, it was a little bit like, whoa, one quarterback on the roster. It's a little weird, but I think they kind of had it all figured out.
Yeah, I know there was some talk that maybe Browning outplayed Brandon in the especially in the last preseason game, because I mean Browning was making some plays there against the Rams. I mean, he looked pretty good. Now I think a lot of that has to do with he got way more playing time in the preseason than he normally would have because of the injury to Jackpot Jerry Burrow. So I mean I think he's taking advantage of that. And one thing I thought was interesting. Now I think, like you said, I think Brandon Allen has a really good relationship with Joe Burrow. I think that has a lot to do with why Brandon is still the backup. But also, I think from what I've heard about Browning, I think it's a lot of same reason as why he's here. Because apparently on their off days, he goes into the DB room's office and talks to them, the DB room, their meeting, I should say, and talks to them about what the view is from the quarterback, what he saw out there. Same thing with the wide receivers. I mean, it's kind of cool that because Browning does the same thing with Burrow. The backup quarterbacks, there's more to being a backup quarterback than just holding a clipboard. I mean, people always think, well, you got to be able to come in and, Brandon Allen's got to be able to come in and he's got to be able to win the game. Like, well, he's a backup quarterback. So most likely there's a reason he's a backup quarterback. He's probably not going to come in and win the game for you. You just don't want to come in and lose it for you. But there are more nuances to what these backup quarterbacks actually do and contribute to the team than I think people actually realize.
You ever see the movie Remember the Titans?
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember Ronnie Bass, Sunshine, the backup quarterback who had to come in when Rev was, when he got hurt and all that. It was he had the deer in headlights look, and I can't make that pitch, coach. Remember that whole deal?
Yep.
And then the coach kind of talked him off the ledge. A lot of people kind of feel like, even in the NFL, it seems like a lot of people feel like that's how backup quarterbacks are in the NFL, where it's just they're deer in the headlights. They're not prepared. They just, especially when there's a star quarterback in front of them, right? They just feel like, hey, what do I need to prepare for? That's just not the case. You're a professional. And I mean, I think teams for the most part recognize that, the backup quarterbacks they're bringing in are not guys that are just sitting around doing nothing.
Right.
Sometimes they can loaf a little bit if they're a former high pick and they just have fallen out of favor or what have you. And maybe they get a little bit of a benefit of a doubt, but some of these guys, they know how to prepare. They know how to do things. It's more just, they've got a star in front of them or what have you. So, I mean, yeah, it's nice to hear these stories about, these guys preparing the right way and asking the right questions and doing all of these things. And I think we saw a nice jump from Browning this year, really from the guy who was in the NFL the previous couple of years. And I think a lot of people forget, I think I wrote about this a little bit on a post I did recently on Cincy Jungle, where Browning in I think it was his sophomore year at Washington, he had John Ross and he had Dante Pettis as his wide receivers. He threw like 46 touchdowns that year.
Yeah.
And against like 9 interceptions. He was like a guy where everyone's like, dude, this is the next big NFL quarterback, right? And then those guys slowly leave. You had Ross one year, and then I think Pettis the next year, and you see the numbers do this a little bit. So then people are going, well, actually, who is this guy? But then you've kind of seen him do some nice things the last couple of games here in the preseason. Even Drew Plitt, he kind of said, what the hell do I have to lose here? I'm just going to wing the ball around.
He was just chucking it, dude.
Yeah, it was just like, hey, whatever. You know, and he had a nice showing there. It didn't work out for him, but he was kind of a feel-good story. So Allen was kind of a little bit more methodical, take care of the football, nothing too special in terms of pushing it downfield in the preseason. And so I think the Bengals here, just in terms of who they kept on the roster, it's the devil you know as opposed to the one you maybe don't as much. But yeah, I mean, they're preparing the right way, and you got to like that. Browning's doing a lot of things that I think the coaches like, and that's why he's stuck around the practice squad.
Exactly. Now, I know you're out there in LA, so you don't always get to enjoy the stuff here in Cincinnati with the Bengals that we do, which, I mean, I didn't even get to go to this. I wanted to go, but they had a taste of the Bengals the other night. And this is one thing I love about this fan base. And I know you guys have done on Cincy Jungle and on your podcast, different charity things for Anthony Munoz and Ken Anderson Foundation, all that stuff. Well, my buddy Matt, Bengals and Bourbon, he got an autographed helmet. I mean, I don't know how many signatures he's got on. He's got a ton of them. Well, anyway, he decided he was going to raffle it off. You know, he's doing $30 spots, total of 100, and it's going to be $3,000 going to the Hayden Hurst Foundation. And I think all the spots got filled in like an hour, and people are still, they can't get the helmet, but Bengals fans are still donating $30 to the Hayden Hurst Foundation. I hope I'm saying the foundation right, but I just think that's
right,
I think it's you got the HH Foundation. I think it's Hayden Hurst Foundation. Either way, I just think that is unbelievable for this fan base. You know, I know they all wanted the helmet, but only one person is getting it. They are literally donating $30 right now, and they have they're not even going to be in the drawing. So I just think that's what's one of the coolest things about this fan base. I know you've experienced that with some of the stuff that you've done on Cincy Jungle.
Yeah, the generosity of Bengals fans is pretty cool. And I mean, what's really neat between, you know, some of the things you guys do with raising money for charity, and, you know, what we've done on our show, Bengal Jim is the big proponent of that, and all of the money he has raised. And, you know, the thing that Bengal Jim also does, the Jungle to the Hall thing, you know, which is just, it's not about, you know, our show, my show. It's like, hey, it's about the team. It's about doing cool stuff and giving back and being in a position of being able to do that. And a lot of Bengals fans recognize that. And even, you know, certain things we did, you know, hey, if you can donate $13 for Ken Riley's, you know, like small amounts, right? It's just like, hey, and it's gestures like that. And the Bengals, you know, Bengals community never ceases to surprise me with their generosity and stuff. So really cool thing. And it's a really good testament to the Bengals fan base that they're still donating after it's like, hey, you don't have a chance to win this helmet anymore. And they're still donating, and I'll get it on that on that too. I didn't see that one come across my timeline there. So there's an ability to do that. I'll do something with that, but very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, like I said, if you guys, I know Anthony, you know, because you've been on my show before. I'm sleepy. I work at night, so I was actually sleeping when all this happened, and I wake up and we got this group chat that's all blowing up. Going, what do you guys got going on? I'm like, holy crap, I missed the whole thing. I'm like, that happened in like 4 hours. They're like, it happened in about an hour. I'm like, wow, like that's pretty daggone good. So I want to give a shout out to my boy Matt.
Very cool,
and just Bengals fans in general. All right, so like I said, we are 9 days from kickoff against the hated Pittsburgh Squealers. Now, some people say I might be giving them too much credit, and I'm not trying to, but I do try to be realistic. So I'm not speaking with orange-colored sunglasses on right now. I do that sometimes on the show. I don't know if you know that about me. Anyway,
we all
the Squealers, I think their defense is as good as it was last year. I actually think they've improved. Not their defense, the team in general, because I think they're going to have better quarterback play than they had the last couple of years. I think they got a better wide receiver than they've had the last couple of years. I still think the Bengals are going to beat them, but AC, it's the Steelers, man. It's always a dogfight, and it's always hard. It's an AFC North battle Where are you at on the Bengals rolling into week 1 against the Squealers?
I teeter between two different mindsets. Obviously, the old, long-time, cynical Bengal fan in me is, oh boy, Steelers. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Last year was incredibly satisfying because of the Bengals sweeping both the Ravens and the Steelers. I mean, that just rarely happens. I mean, it rarely happens for the Bengals, and they did so in absolute dominating fashion.
Yes.
Both, all 4 wins were like not even close, right? So that, and you can ride that momentum here now. That I do think that Steelers have made some improvements. I do think that they may. I don't know if it's so weird to say, oh, the quarterback play is going to be better than a Hall of Famer and Ben Roethlisberger. But last year, I mean, there was a lot of issues there. I'm not a Mitch Trubisky guy per se, but I think the guy can do. I think he's better than some people give him credit for. Maybe even myself give him credit for. I think Pickens is a bully. I think he's just fits right into everything that's Pittsburgh Steelers. Right. And so, they've got weapons. I think their offensive line is still a little bit of a mess. I think, you've got to contend with TJ Watt. You've got a lot of other good players on that defense. They did lose an interesting piece on their defense for an amount of time, Damontae Kazee, who's a backup safety, but I think they were going to try and get him on the field a lot in nickel and dime packages to just kind of have another kind of one of those opportunistic defensive backs. He's a guy when he's healthy can make a lot of plays, but he's lost, I think, for a period of time there. So that hurts them on the defense. Najee Harris, interesting thing. I don't know if you heard about this, Jeff. He was initially in camp. He didn't really practice or do much at all in training camp because Mike Tomlin told everybody someone stepped on his foot. Well, It wasn't that. It was a Liz Frank injury, which is not a good injury if you're a running back. So there's that. And then I think, if you are the Bengals, you are catching the Steelers at a really good time because all of these transitions and all these things are taking place. And you still, you're kind of feeling yourself out a little bit as the Pittsburgh Steelers, whereas I think the Bengals more so know who they are and what they want to do. Right. So, it's a divisional game. It's a tough game. It's going to be physical. The Steelers are going to try and do what they always try and do with the Bengals, which is after the whistle stuff and just little jabs and trying to get them to do dumb things and whatnot. So you can't play into that. So, yeah, I mean, it's not going to be easy, but I do feel pretty confident that the Bengals will come out pretty ready for this one.
Yeah, I'm like I said, all that being said, all the little compliments or whatever I gave the Squares, I think we're going to put it to them. I do. I mean, we put 40 on them twice last year. Our offense has done nothing but get better. Their defense is still the same. I mean, it hasn't improved. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's still the same. Their offensive line is horrible. They didn't really do anything to really improve that at all. So I think with the added pass rushers that we have with Jeffrey Gunner and Zach, and we're going to get hopefully a full season of Joseph Osai. He's still got the H boys. I think we're going to get after the quarterback on him because I'm not saying we're going to put 40 on him, but it might not be close. I mean, I just had that feeling. Good.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. Now, here's the caveat, and I don't remember exactly how many sacks the Bengals got on Ben Roethlisberger quarterback hits last year, but Ben Roethlisberger throughout most of his career, especially early, was a guy where it just seemed like even big, huge guys like Carlos Dunlap would just slide off of him, right?
That was annoying.
The last couple of years, particularly last year, it was hit and go down with Ben Roethlisberger, right? He wasn't doing that backyard football stuff that he did so many years. Now, what worries me a little bit more about this matchup is like I talked about with Trubisky. He's a little bit more mobile. He can move. He can run with the football as well. A little bit more athletic. So, if the Bengals do have to be pretty, disciplined with their pass rush to not let him be able to do that, and then once they get their hands on him, they got to bring him down. So I don't think it'll be as easy to bring Trubisky down as it was perhaps last year with Big Ben, but I do agree with you that is a key, and those guys will get after it.
Yeah, the other thing that I'm really excited about that we haven't really touched on is how good not only the defense, but how good this secondary is going to be now that Jesse Bates is back in the fold, and with the addition of Dax Hill and eventually Cam Taylor-Britt when he gets back from his appendix or not his solar injury. That's how you say it. I think our secondary in general, DBs, safeties, cornerbacks, I think it could be the best or at least top 2 or 3 in the NFL this year. What's your thoughts on the secondary?
Well, I think once all hands are on deck, meaning you get Taylor Britt back, potentially Tyson Anderson, who I think was put on IR. I don't think that's going to be a long-term thing. So, once you kind of get those guys back in the fold and you bring some more athleticism in the secondary group, I think that really will boost things. But yeah, I mean, really the big question is, which Eli Apple is going to show up this year, right? Is it going to be the guy who played the best football of his career last year and continue to do that because he's comfortable in the system? He's comfortable with Lou Anarumo, and he maybe is comfortable in where he is for the first time in his career, where he's playing, right? Maybe all of that kind of continues to a nice momentum and one of those nice redemption stories that the Bengals have had so many of over the last handful of years. So, I mean, that's kind of the key there. I think Awuzie has been an amazing pickup. He was great last year. Not the big interception machine, but a guy who just was, I mean, he was just borderline lockdown. He was a really good pickup. So, if he continues to play well, that's a big thing. And then, have some fun with Dax Hill. If you're Lou Anarumo, just have some fun. Let him go out there. Now that you got Bates back there, what's great about that is now Dax can be a little bit more instinctive and not maybe so much head spinning because I'm a rookie and I have this big role and all of that. Now it's like, hey, these are some fun packages we could put you in. These are some things that we can put you out there that you're comfortable in doing in terms of a role and go for it. So I don't know if I'm ready to proclaim them top 5, top 2 in the NFL. I think they could be very high up. And I think that's going to occur when they get back some of the athleticism of Taylor Britt and Tyson Anderson. But I like where they're at. Eli Apple's got to continue the momentum. And then, of course, Awuzie's got to be himself. Bates, just bring the consistency. That's all I'm asking from Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates has streaks, both good and maybe below average or average at times. So just be a little bit more consistent. And I think, man, it's going to work out well for him.
Exactly. Now, one thing I want to bring up that we'll roll back to the guys that they picked up, and we kind of gloss over this a little bit. But the guard, Max Sharping, if I'm saying his name right. Now, you just mentioned Cordell Volson is starting left guard. It's been official. Now, this guy is a 3-year starter. I don't think it's going to be week 1. And I hope, I'm not saying anything. I hope Cordell Volson is the starting left guard all year long. What are the chances you think that does happen, that Cordell Volson is the starting left guard all year long with Sharping in camp, being a guy who started for the last 3 years in the NFL?
Well, I'll answer that in just one sec. I want to also just mention one other name from the last question, too, that I think is the big equation that nobody, including myself, seems to remember or talk about and it's just bad on me. But Trey Flowers, I mean, that's the guy that, you bring into the secondary that is a niche player that is doing some nice things for the team and actually played well in the preseason as kind of their starter. So, that's another guy. Let's not forget about him. He's a fun piece to that secondary.
And Anthony, he was a huge pickup. That goes back to what we talked about earlier in the show too, as far as the Bengals constantly trying to improve themselves, unlike they did in the past. Trey Flowers was a in-season pickup. I mean, and if it wasn't, I mean, with him, I know he's not the only reason, but with him, we can cover the tight end now. Like, how many times did we say we can't cover the tight end? We can't cover the tight end. Well, now with Trey Flowers, we've been able to cover the tight ends. I mean, again, it goes to what we talked about before, how this team is constantly trying to improve themselves.
Yep. Size, length. There are some limitations, obviously, for, covering the top guys on the boundary for Flowers. But what they ask him to do, he's pretty good at. And I think that's just a piece of everything with that secondary. I omitted him in our discsion there. So I didn't want to.
Yeah, I love Trey. I was so happy when they signed. I was seriously jumping up and down when they re-signed him this offseason. I'm like, good, because I wanted to keep him. All right, so let's get back to the offensive line here with the Sharping. Yeah. So what's your thoughts on, is Volson, do you think, going to hold him off all year? Or, I don't think he's brought in here to take Volson's job. I think he's legitimately brought in here to be a backup. But we are a Super Bowl team, and you got a guy in your locker room right now that's a 3-year starter at guard. So it's something to think about, consider.
Swing back up. He's got time at left guard and right guard, mostly left guard. 33 starts in 48 total games played. Only missed 1 game suited up, that in the last 3 years as a pro with the Texans. There's been some ups and downs. I think Joe Goodberry put out an interesting statistic in terms of his pass block efficiency over the years, which is pretty high, which you like to see. But, the thing is here, I don't really know exactly what happened with Houston and Sharping, but you wonder, okay, new coaching regime, maybe it's just, just wasn't a fit there and all of that. I'd like to kind of know more about that. But regardless, I think he's a good piece to have to play either right guard or left guard if there is an issue, be it injury, ineffectiveness, what have you. I don't anticipate that happening, especially at the right guard position with Kappa. But, in case there is an injury, this is what the Bengals needed. They needed more depth. And so, when you saw what happened in the postseason last year, when you saw, Riley Reef not in the lineup and, there was just issues galore when they had to go to deep into the backup well. So now you've got a guy who's a former second-round pick and has a lot of starting experience in the NFL. The hope is that Cordell Volson does stave him off and he doesn't need to play, right? I mean, that's the hope. I just feel that, and I could be wrong about this, I feel that the leash is short for Volson. They're not going to put up with a lot of offensive line issues this year,
right?
Wherever
they can't. That's the thing. They can't.
Yeah. And so I right or wrong. I mean, I think they're going to give Volson a shot and everything, but right or wrong, I think there might be a short leash there. I don't know that they even trust Jackson Carman to potentially come in off the bench and start if Volson doesn't work. So I mean, this signing may be a little bit of an indictment of that, of Carman's progress or lack thereof as well. So either way, I think the leash is short over there. They just can't afford to have a lot of issues or bad snaps or whatever from a weak link on the offensive line. So I think Max Sharping makes a lot of sense, and that was a good pickup by them.
Now, if I'm correct, that they put Prince on the injured list, right? Am I
Yes.
correct on that? Okay.
Yeah.
So to me, that could be a saving move for Jackson Carman, because this guy they brought in, Sharping, literally is coming in to do exactly what Jackson Carman did. Now, Jackson Carman's probably last on the list, but swing tackle, play guard, play both guard spots, play tackle. I mean, that's what Jackson is supposed to do now. That's his job. Now, you're bringing this guy in there. There are some thoughts that, maybe the Jackson Carman project would be over and they might get rid of him. Me personally, I'm hoping I want them to keep him and hopefully, him stick around and hopefully develop into the offensive line that they thought he would be. Did you think that was a possibility that they might get rid of Jackson Carman?
No. I think a lot of people thought they should. I think a lot of people thought they might. I think he's just too valuable of a developmental piece for them, right or wrong. And I think, they've got a second round investment in that, which is ironic because we're talking about Sharping, who was let go as a former second round pick, in his fourth season or whatever. But, I think they like him, and I think they want to continue to potentially developing him. And I think they want to, see what they got out of it. He's 22 years old. He's 22. I mean, Volson, who's the rookie, is 24. Yep. So, I mean, it's like, there's still some time there. Mm-hmm. It's taking more time than a lot of us would like. It's taking, there are way more lumps than a lot of us would like. But I mean, he's developing at a slower pace than we would all like. But I think, it's kind of their pet project, and they're gonna roll with it. And they're going to be patient with it. They've gotten rid of a lot of those guys that they've tried to work with on the, this same kind of basis, but they're keeping one around, and maybe even two, if you consider Deontay Smith that same type of player as well. So, I was not surprised that they kept him. I think a lot of people thought they should not have kept him, but I was pretty certain they would.
Yeah, I was one that wanted to keep him for sure, because I take my cues from Dave Lapham when it comes to offensive line play. Like I said, he's forgotten more offensive line play, more football than I'll ever know. But one thing that he said I've heard him say multiple times, and I think it's the reason that they're keeping him, is because Jackson Carman's his highs are so high. When he plays his elite level, he can be an elite guard, but then his mess ups are so big. That's the problem. And Cordell Volson is more consistent. His ceiling isn't as high as Jackson Carman's is, but his floor is a lot. It's a lot lower. It's not as, the mistakes aren't as big. So,
yeah,
if Jackson Carman,
no, I'm sorry. You just need people on this line that aren't going to derail drives, aren't going to derail, multiple series with a lot of different
40.
penalties and issues and poor play. And you have to cut down on the hits and sacks allowed to your quarterback. I mean, that just has to happen. And so, whatever, really, it's kind of whatever it's going to take to make that occur. The Bengals are willing to do it, and that's why they're willing to go with a lower pick, a rookie, over a guy that was a higher pick just a year ago. They just feel like the floor is higher with Volson. And, John and I have talked about it on our show a little bit. It's when you look at even bad snaps in the preseason from Volson, he has a better ability to recover in certain instances and make it a passable snap, as opposed to what we've seen from Carmen. And that's just
completely destroyed.
Where it's like, he loses initially and it's, the snap is blown up. But we have seen more dominating snaps from Carmen at times. It's just not consistent at all.
That's the frustrating part, I think, to the Bengals and fans like me. I've seen him where he just flat dominates guys, and then the next play, the guy's blowing his doors off and he's getting a holding penalty. It's just like, But one thing, another thing, we're talking a lot of roster here. The fourth wide receiver spot. Now, I know people were wanting Pryor and I can't ever say the other guy's name. I know Pryor left.
Lassiter.
Thank you. I know there a lot of people were big on those guys. A lot of fans were because they always had the preseason hype for these players. But it's Trent Taylor and Stanley Morgan. Now, my thought process, I've been saying this a lot this year. I could see Chris Evans being used a lot as that slot or as that split out wide a lot for a fourth wide receiver potential. What's your thoughts on their usage of Chris Evans this year?
I think it was either I was on, I can't remember if it was Bengals and Brew or another, or maybe Willie Lutz's show. I can't remember which one, but dude,
you're on so many shows. You're so popular.
Oh, well, no, I'm not saying it's not that. I just I said that. They asked me who's wide receiver for. I mean, this was a couple weeks ago, granted, but I said Chris Evans.
Dude, I'm with you. That's what I've been saying.
And I mean, he's I guess running back 3 on the depth chart or whatever, but I don't even put him really as a running. He's just kind of a weapon. He's just a guy you just use. It's kind of like if you remember years ago, remember Eric Metcalf? Guys that you play him a wide receiver, you play him a running back, you play him
for the Browns. I hated him.
But he's a hell of a player.
He was.
He can do all these different things. And that's kind of how I feel about Chris Evans. I feel like he's a guy that you could just go play slot. Okay, run the ball in the backfield. Okay, go take this kickoff. And at any given moment, he can pop a big play. And I was a little disappointed with the yards per carry from him and lack of big plays on the ground in the preseason from him this summer. But I mean, that was kind of everybody. Right?
Well, was also because he had a couple big ones taken back as a holding too. So and those holding calls had nothing to do with him breaking it open. So that to me, the yard, I agree with what you're saying, but the yardage is a little skewed because he had 2 big ones in the first game of the year taken back. So
So yeah, I mean, I at this point, I mean, I think you like what Morgan brings you on special teams and all that kind of stuff. But I think if you're looking at actually someone that's going to be utilized as a potential weapon and receiver in the passing game, I think you start really looking at that. You can look at, I mean, the Bengals did a good job of it a long time ago, but in Chris Perry's rookie year, he had 50 plus catches, I think, and was an effective weapon that way. Kenny Watson after him. I mean, if you kind of carve out a role like that, where it's just, hey, here's, you're kind of our 4th receiving option. You're a kick returner. You can also run the ball here and there. Do it.
I'd say, I mean, you basically just got to give him the ball and get it out in space and he'll make a play. I mean, because and every time I talk about Chris Evans, I always go back to the Detroit Lion game last year, where I think that was his breakout game. Unfortunately, not too long after that, he got hurt and he never really got back into the mix again. But if we can, let's see, Anthony, if we could get him going, and we got Hayden Hurst, and we got everybody we had last year, and the offensive line is fixed, holy bleep. I mean, it is literally, if I'm a team in the AFC, I am going, what the F are we going to do to stop these guys? I mean,
this is the thing with the offensive line too, and I think this is maybe what Volson gives them that Carmen has not, is the ability and or the aptitude right now to get to a second level block, right?
Right.
So when I think this is going to be an element we'll see a bit more. I think maybe this year is maybe a setup running back screen. Setup, maybe even tight end screen. We used to see that all the time with Tyler Eifert. I think you're going to maybe start seeing some of these screen type of plays where, now that your offensive line is rebuilt and you've got guys that can move and get up to second levels and all of that, these are the easy plays, the completions that limit potential hits on Joe Burrow. But then you also, like you said, give it to a guy like Chris Evans in space and watch him go. They did it they did it sometimes last year, and sometimes it was effective. I remember Mixon having a couple that were pretty nice plays, but I think it just was too inconsistent because the blocking wasn't always there. And so when you don't have the blocking, if those things blow up on you, I mean, it's like a devastating play. It's like a loss of 7 or something, right?
Right, exactly.
So I mean, that now if you're able to do that a bit more consistently, which I think the Bengals should be able to do based on who they have on the offensive line, now those plays become absolute killers. And when you're focusing in on Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, and you've got guys out deep in coverage, now you can potentially do a little short dump off to the running back that can move the chains for you. So these are the types of things I'm excited about.
Well, another thing that they did a little bit last year, and I have a feeling that they're going to do this a lot more, is chasing the backfield. I really think that they're going to utilize him. I'm not as much as the 49ers did Debo, but I think it's good because, down the stretch, Anthony, that started becoming a thing. And I do think that, Chase, they're going to utilize that more too, because again, it just keeps going back. If you talk about the depth and the layers to this offense and what they can do and the athletes that they have, and we're still not even talking about Joe Mixon. I mean, I think he's got a shot at 2,000 multi-purpose yards. I thought he had a shot at it last year, but I mean, it blows my mind the talent on this team, and I'm really excited to actually see Zach Taylor's playbook opened all the way up, because I think he's been held back so much because of the offensive line the last couple of years. And with all the weapons we have and the offensive line seemingly fixed, at least we hope so, I think I'm really curious to see what Zach has up his sleeve that we haven't seen yet.
I said something similar to this on my show the other night. And, if you look back to the first parts of 2014 and 2015, you look at those rosters. Obviously, 2014, the Bengals got way injured, and that roster wasn't the same towards the end of the year. But when you look at that, remember what they were doing when Hugh Jackson first got back there in 2014, where it was like Andy Dalton catching a pass from Mo Sanu and all.
Offensive linemen split out wide. And
it was wacky. But I'm not saying the Bengals will do all that kind of stuff. But I think it just, with the talent they have, the better offensive line, you have the ability, if you're Brian Callahan, to be more creative and do different things, like what you're talking about with Chase in the backfield, that sort of thing. So I don't. I would maybe expect that a little bit more this year, but also just a lot of different things as well, because they're just able to do more with the offensive line that they have, the other talent that they've amassed. And that's what makes this team pretty exciting. And when you look back at 2014, 2015, even 2012, 2013, you look at those rosters that were just, wow, roster's pretty stacked. It's one of the better rosters in the league.
Right.
And now you look at, and the question, right or wrong, was about Andy Dalton and the quarterback. How far can Andy Dalton take him? Well, now you've kind of built up this roster in a similar capacity, and now Joe Burrow is your quarterback, right? So it's like, you look at the running backs. Well, damn, you got Mixon, Pirine, and Evans. You look at the wide receivers. You got all, the big three. You got the tight end discussion we were talking about. And so you just look at it, and you got to be pretty excited about where this roster is, and obviously who the quarterback is leading everybody. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and I'll go back to a lot of what I said last year, because everybody talks about the schedule, how hard the schedule was last year. Now the schedule is even harder this year. Well, I keep going back to, if my quarterback is better than yours, then I'm probably going to win. And I will take Jackpot over anybody in the NFL right now. So, I mean, I think we got the better quarterback every Sunday. You got that, along with the offensive weapons we have, along with this defense. Dude, we're going 17-0, Anthony. That's it. We're going 17-0.
You called it.
Or something you're back on. Screw it.
Are you concerned at all about the lack of snaps in preseason, or are you just like, screw it, who cares?
No, because he had three last year, and he's coming off an ACL. So
That's a good point.
I mean, if it wasn't, I was more concerned last year. I wanted him to do something. They only did 3, and going, okay, well, that's just to make That literally was just to make the fan base go, look, I'm fine. You know,
Right.
I mean, I don't think if Zach Taylor didn't, I think he was tired of hearing about Joe Burrow not playing last year, so he let him play 3 snaps. That's other than that, I don't think he was going to play last year. Yeah. I don't think moving forward we're going to see the starters play. You know, under Zach Taylor's regime, they're not going to play in the preseason. Now, that might get them to a slow start. We might not drop 40 on the Squealers the first night, and maybe we'll drop 30 on them. I don't know, but I mean, I do think it will affect them a little bit, but it doesn't affect these guys as much. Now, that is an interesting thing here. Actually, I just thought of this. It'll be see how this matchup works out because the Steelers did play all of their starters, and they just about almost lost TJ Watt to a knee injury. Mm-hmm. They got lucky and didn't. And the Bengals didn't play anybody. So it will be kind of interesting to see how that game starts out. You know, do the Steelers start out faster than the Bengals do because they played more, or do they start slower because they got beat up and the Bengals are nice and fresh? You know, is the old school versus new school mentality here. So that will be very interesting to see how that plays out the first game.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I don't know. I just, you know, it's one of those things where, well, I mean, it seems like the players are fine with it, that they didn't really play much. So I guess let's roll. But
I mean, like I said, I don't know what's right. I just know he did it last year and it worked out pretty good last year. So I'm going to go with the newest stuff that I know what happened there. Then, you know, because I mean, the thing is, I would rather than be rusty than not on the field. That's kind of where I'm at with this whole thing. So
I get the logic to not playing them. I'm just saying, you know, obviously, you know, there's just not a lot of live football that's been, you know.
Well, they were pretty live against the Rams. I'll tell you that. That I was up on the bridge.
Were you there for that? Were you there for that one?
Yeah, I was up there. Both. I was down the field for the first day, and then the second day I was up on the bridge, and that's when the melee started happening. I saw all 3 fights. I mean, I didn't. I saw them. I did see the helmet swing. I'm going, holy crap. I couldn't tell who was doing it, you know, for where I was at. So I got home and saw the tweets from the fans who actually got to go down on the field. Well, yeah, those are some pretty intense practices. And I think, honestly, moving forward, I think they're going to see more of those. Now, if they go to fight each other, we might not, but that kind of put the damper on it. But I think there should be a lot of those moving forward in future football because they just don't want to put the pads on. They don't want to hit. You know, they can only practice so much now. There's no 2-a-days. So, you know, so they're trying to do different things. So they do joint practices. I think they're trying to get the most work there. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the fight thing was, I mean, seeing some of that stuff was pretty crazy.
Oh, dude, he was swinging. I mean, I could hear it up in the bridge. Like, cool. Like, holy crap. He was swinging.
Yeah. I think in terms of what happened those couple of days, I think it was just a combination of probably heat and going up only against your team for so long. And then you're finally, you know, and then there was some history there, I think, with Collins and Floyd and some others.
And
but
they did beat us for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I think that had something to do with it as well. I mean, there's a lot of things kind of boiling in the cauldron there, as they say. But I mean, I it's not something I don't think that will be taken away by the league or anything. And I think there's, you know, the teams are going to probably keep doing that. I mean, they've taken a lot of the physical aspects out of training camp and hitting drills and all that kind of stuff, and for good reason. But I think, you know, this is going to be an element as part of the ramp up, especially as teams aren't playing their starters anymore in the preseason. I think you're going to see that as potentially the ramp up to the regular season.
I got a question for you here real quick. What do you think Donald should have been fined or anything? Because technically it doesn't fall under NFL rules because it was an NFL game. It's, you know, it's between the teams. Now, Myles Garrett took a helmet and swung it and he got suspended and all that stuff. I mean, what's the difference? He took a helmet and swung it multiple times. He had 2 helmets.
I will say that I don't think he should have been fined. And I say that because there's not really a letter of the law that says that because of practice and the joint practices and all that kind of stuff. But I would not be surprised if this does not get tabled for owners' meetings and stuff in the future to be talked about. That's right. I think this is going to be something that they'll, you know, you can't have that. I mean, you can't. I mean,
that's not practice.
No, I mean, you can't have that. So, you know, I think that, and actually, even though You know, we've all shouted it from the rooftops from the get-go about Thad Moss's block and the block on Watt.
Yep.
Those cut blocks, you know, they're legal. They're kind of gross looking, but they're legal by standards in the league. So that may be something that also gets addressed aside from, you know, what we're talking about with Donald.
Yeah, I mean, thank God that nobody got it's hard to see you swinging that thing. I mean, we'll just say Chase got hit in the head and he got a concussion and a bad one. He's out for week 1 because of that. I mean, now if that would have happened, then yeah, I think the uproar, especially from Who Dey Nation, would be loud about this is bull crap. You can't do this. But luckily nobody got hurt. But I do think if they're going to do these joint practices, and let's be honest, fights are going to happen. I mean, they're going to. They can't rip a guy's helmet off. I don't care where it's at. You can't take somebody's helmet and beat him in the head with it. So eventually, I think something will happen there. Anyway, Anthony, you've been talking for an hour. I appreciate you as always. And as you know, I call you the godfather of podcasting. That doesn't mean you're old, because I think I'm actually older than you are. You've just been doing it longer than I am. Anyway, tell everybody about Cincy Jungle and what you guys got going on here before I let you go.
Yeah, a lot of different stuff on Cincy Jungle. You know, we've got news, opinions, analysis, stories, all that kind of stuff on the website, and then the podcast channel. John Sharon and myself have our show, The Orange and Black Insider. We've got Matt Minnick doing Coach Speak and Chalk Talk, and we've brought on Bengal Jim and his Talking Football with Bengal Jim and Friends show, which has been a great addition. And they always bring the guests. We've all had some pretty cool guests over the last handful of weeks, which has been pretty awesome. And yeah, just having some fun and bringing all kinds of different stories and shows and all kinds of stuff. A lot of different content.
Well, I know I appreciate you guys. I appreciate what you guys do for the shows, the content on Cincy Jungle, what Jim has done for his podcast, Jungle to the Hall, and all that stuff. I think you guys do an absolute great job. And
you do as well, man.
Every time you guys come on my show, I love it. Like, John helped me out last Friday. I lost I lost my guest, and John jumped on. So I'm like, you guys are always there for me, so I appreciate you, brother.
Wow, we love you, man. You do a great job, and appreciate your support of us. And we'll get you on our show coming up here soon too. So we'll have to do that. We'll have to coordinate that.
Sounds good to me. All right, Godfather. I love calling you that. Who Dey, brother?
All right, who Dey.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Like I said, AC is awesome. I love having him on the show. Make sure you guys check him out on Cincy Jungle and the Orange and Black Insider podcast. Yeah, sorry. And so everybody keeps trying to call me when I'm recording. But make sure you check those guys out. Now, let me get to the Facebook groups that let me live stream, and I appreciate every single one of them. They are Who Dey Nation, Who Dey Legion, Bearcat Ruckus, the Ohio State Bucknuts, the Ice Bar, and they can follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Twitter handle is at Jeff A. Trunapole. TikTok is at Iceman90. I'll be pulling a sign off later tonight, putting on the podcast. It's on BeanPod, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Stitcher Play, pretty much wherever you get your podcast. Please make sure you rate, like, and review. Give me a 5-star review and leave a comment so more Cincinnati fans can find my podcast. I would greatly appreciate it. YouTubers, you guys are awesome, even though we're going backwards. I'm at 1,865. I was at 1,867 yesterday. I'm trying to get to 2,000. If you guys help me out to get to 2,000 subscribers, one of you guys can win this delicious 6-pack of Jackpot Joey beer, which I'm telling you, it is delicious. Now, the Jackpot Joey beer, it's out limited supplies right now. Jungle Gyms, as far as I know, Fairfield and East have it. Now, as of the time that I'm recording this, they have it. When you're watching it or listening to it, they might not. But I know by the end of the weekend, it's going to be a lot of different places. I keep trying to tweet out the different spots of where it's coming for the next couple of days. So just keep calling and asking people for it. And like I said, by September 11th, it should be out everywhere. So it's Friday. You guys have a wonderful weekend. We got a long Labor Day weekend. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a show Monday or not. We'll have to wait and see. But we are 9 days away. We're a jackpot away from kickoff. I cannot freaking wait. Tomorrow, the Bearcats are playing Arkansas. That's another one I can't wait for. This will be a huge statement for the Bearcats to go down there and win. We'll find out. I can't wait to find out. Other than that, You guys have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. Say it with me, people. That's just sports, baby. See ya!